I think my child is pregnant. How do I approach them? Throwaway because I'm in Reddit circles where I don't talk about my child ever, plus for both our privacy. As far as I know, Casey doesn't use Reddit apart from those robot-voiced YouTube videos, but if you do see this, I'm sorry. I love you. I just don't know who to talk to about this. As you can tell from the ages, I had my child Casey, non-binary, they/them, very young. I've been a single mom their entire life, and while I've never let them know how hard it really was when they were little, they're definitely aware that it was a bad situation that I didn't want for them when they grew up. I know that I am a success story because I was able to go to university and build a comfortable life for us, but I didn't try to glamorize it because I wanted Casey to have a life of their own before taking care of another one. When they were a young teenager, I really preached safe sex, telling them you have a uterus, you can get pregnant, if you're going to do it, please just be safe. We are incredibly close, and there's very little we don't share with each other. I keep more to myself as the parent, obviously. Casey has always confided in me if something was wrong or even if they just wanted to talk. As soon as they started struggling with their identity, they came and told me, and I was just so happy that they knew they could trust me with it. I've been there through all their school struggles. I know all their friends. I met their significant others. This is a long way of saying that there's no reason for them to hide this from me, and I don't know why they haven't told me. I've had thoughts that Casey could be pregnant on and off for a couple of months, but it only really hit me in the past few weeks that I could be right. The only early sign I can think of was what we thought was a really bad food poisoning in September. They were actually hospitalized for dehydration, but we had a takeaway the night before, and Casey's had been a bit questionable. As far as I'm aware, they weren't sick after that. I started questioning it properly when I noticed that we weren't running out of menstrual products as quickly, but I thought they were probably using the ones at their 6th form since they're spending so much time there prepping for exams. I finally had the realization about a week ago. Casey is an oversized jumper person, but we were going somewhere nice for my birthday, so they were wearing a dress and I thought their tummy looked a bit bigger. I didn't say anything because I don't want to spark eating disorder behavior. Also, we're both quite thin, but maybe they gained weight and they just carry it differently. I think a few days later they were playing on the floor with the cats and their top rode up, and my heart just plummeted when I saw a definite bump and the line you get on your tummy when you're pregnant. If they noticed that I noticed, they haven't acted any differently since then. The only way I can describe it is that I felt my heart sink. Not even because they're probably pregnant, because they didn't tell me. I will support them no matter what. It might be too late to terminate, but if they want to keep the baby or give it up, I'll be there for them. I just can't think why they wouldn't come to me. Is it somehow possible that they don't even know? What if they're somehow not pregnant and I just wreck our relationship by asking them? I don't know what to do. I just want them, and baby, to be safe and get the right care, and for them to know I love them. TLDR, I think my child is pregnant and I don't know how to tell them that I know. Additional information from OOP. Edit because I accidentally took it out when editing before posting. This might have been something I just made up now that I'm putting everything together, but I'm sure I saw it. The other day after I noticed the weight gain, they were asleep next to me on the sofa and there was movement in their tummy, not just from breathing. I remember what it looked like because seeing them kick when I was pregnant is such a vivid memory, and they could be far enough that you can see baby from the outside, but I might have been tired and my brain is filling in the gaps wrong, I don't know. Update, February 2nd, 2024, same day, 18 hours later. Thank you for all your comments. I'm glad I posted because I really needed the outside perspective. Also, I did ask Casey and they said isn't Reddit for trading stocks, so do with that what you will. My kid is much funnier than I am. I ended up going to Casey right after I posted and just asking them. I said something like, I've noticed some changes about you, is there anything you aren't telling me? I promise I will support you no matter what happened, but I just need to know what's going on, not mentioning the pregnancy specifically because I wanted them to open up by themselves. Casey broke down in tears and we had a long cry and cuddle before they told me everything. I won't be disclosing some of the details about how they got in this position for their privacy. They are pregnant and weren't sure how far along but knew they were quite far now. I thought they looked 6 to 7 months. Then we did a home fundal height test and felt the uterus high up on their tummy, over halfway, and measured 29 to 31 centimeters, which was a shock to them since they thought they were only 5 months. They'd known for a while but tried to ignore it, knowing that early miscarriages are common and they might not have to tell me. They said they knew they had to do it soon because they couldn't hide their bump anymore and they were really scared now, so I'm glad I asked them when I did. We managed to get an emergency midwife appointment because they're so young and so far along without any prenatal care, and they got a scan straight away for dates, etc. I'm glad they did because a lot of the fear just evaporated when we heard the heartbeat and saw her wriggling around. We found out they're 30 weeks, with a normal, healthy baby girl. We both cried during the scan and then again in the car. I felt incredibly guilty that I didn't notice my child was 7 months pregnant and apologized for not asking them sooner, so they were hiding it for longer. Now that they aren't hiding it, I don't know how I didn't see it because their bump is quite big and not easily hidden. I keep telling myself that they were trying very hard to hide it from me and spending lots of time at school, but I don't know. I'm just trying to reassure myself that Casey and baby are both healthy and think about all the million things we have to do before she's born. I made sure they knew it was their decision and I would help them with whatever they chose, and they told me they wanted to keep the baby. I knew this was going to be the answer and was already coming to terms with it before I even talked to them. Baby is probably going to arrive right before their final exams, so I'm going to fight to make sure they have the best chance possible at school. They're deferring a year before university anyway, so it could be a much worse situation. My baby is about to have a baby no matter what, but I'm going to make sure they're okay. So it's been a surreal day for both of us. Seeing your child suddenly being very pregnant and knowing you're going to be a grandmother at 35 is a lot to process. I'll update if anything major happens and will probably keep using this account for other support, but I think we're going to be alright. TLDR, I suspected my 18-year-old was pregnant after noticing weight gain and movement in their tummy, so they'd been keeping it from me for a while and I didn't know why. Now there's a lot to do before baby arrives in April. New update. Baby is here. Hello. I posted quite a lot when I found out my 18 years old, they slashed them, was pregnant and dropped off for a while because things got very busy. I'm so happy to say that baby arrived 3 days ago and we've been very grateful for all the support, so I have permission to share a bit of the birth story. At 36 weeks, Casey's waters broke first thing in the morning. I was more shocked than they were because I didn't think they actually exploded like that in real life. They'd had mild contractions on and off all night and got stronger after the waters went, so around 12 we went off to the hospital. They were a trooper throughout the labor and didn't even ask for gas and air, which shocked me, and baby was born just after 10. Casey actually helped catch her when she came out and cut her cord themselves. She's a tiny little 6 pounds 8 ounces, but very strong and healthy, and I honestly think the baby hormones are contagious because I was an absolute wreck. The midwife team was incredible. The one who was taking care of them while pregnant was there the whole time and actually had a little cry with me in the hallway after baby was born. We put a sign on the door with the birth plan, Casey's pronouns, etc., and there was no misgendering whatsoever, even by accident, apart from one nurse who didn't know because the sign had fallen down and really apologized when she found out. I had to go home a few hours after baby arrived, and I'll admit I cried the entire time I was away. Thankfully my kid is incredible and kept sending me photos of Bub's little squishy face, and were horrified about what feeding feels like and the size of the pads they were given XD. We've all been home since this morning and it's been magic. I didn't think I'd say Casey is a natural parent, but they really are. It's like they just fit together. I know it'll get harder, but they're in a little bubble of just feeding and sleepy cuddles right now, and I've never been prouder of them. I always knew they would be just fine, but seeing it manifest now that baby's actually here is amazing. I love them so much. Thank you for all the support. My ex-husband is insisting I change my last name back to my maiden name because his new fiancée feels it will be awkward for her and I to have the same last name. Ada for refusing to change it? My 39F ex-husband, 38M, has been dating this woman for 3 years. For context, she is 24 years old. My ex and I were married for 12 years and have been divorced for 5 years. We have 3 kids together who are now teenagers. My ex and I got divorced because we were young when we met and got married, and we grew apart as people. It was a mutual decision, and we agreed our kids came first and have always co-parented very well. This has been the case up until the last year when his girlfriend moved in with him. Previously, we would do holidays and kids' birthdays together. Now when she is present, they won't even sit near me at our kids' sporting events. I have always been nice to this woman, despite my kids expressing they do not like her and they feel their dad acts differently when she is around. My ex told me early on she wasn't a fan of me and felt I intimidated her. When I asked him for examples of how I intimidated her, he said it's my fave, that I have resting bitch face and it makes her uncomfortable. My ex and her got engaged over Christmas and my kids were less than thrilled, my daughter especially. She feels her dad made a major life decision without even talking to them about it first. My ex called me yesterday saying he is giving me a heads up that I have a year to change my last name back to my maiden name as his finance is expressing her distaste and concern for her and I to have the same last name when they get married. I told him we agreed in our divorce that I could keep his last name until I felt the need to change it, and that is what is listed in our paperwork. I also told him I don't want to have a different last name than our kids. He said I'm being unreasonable and refusing to see how this would make his finance uncomfortable. I told him I can't see it from her side because I am a grown-up and not an immature child like she is. He told me I could ask anyone about this situation and everyone would agree with her. So, Ada for refusing to change my last name to make her happy? Update post, April 3rd, 2024, 3 days later. Several of you have asked for an update on my ex-husband giving me a year to change my last name back to my maiden name because his fiancée was uncomfortable with her and I having the same last name. I tried to link the original post, but it is not allowing me to do so, and I'm not sure the best way to give an update, so I will try this. To clarify, the reason he gave me a year is because they are getting married sometime next year and wanted my name changed prior to their wedding. Anyway, my ex called me yesterday and said he had done a lot of research on ex-wives keeping the ex-husband's last name after a divorce. He stated he didn't realize how common this is, especially when there are children from the marriage. He also said this had been my last name for 17 years, my entire adult life has been with this last name, and I have built a career with it. He basically acknowledged that every reason I had to keep it was legitimate. He apologized for the way he initially approached me about changing my last name and explained he is in a bad spot trying to make his fiancée happy. He also explained she feels that by me keeping his last name must mean I'm still in love with him and this is my secret way of assuring we end up together again someday. I informed this was not, nor will it ever be the case. Yes, I care deeply about him because I was married to him for 12 years and he is the father of my children and I want him to be happy in life. However, I fell out of love with him many years ago and that will not change. He said he informed his fiancée that he will not bring this up to me again, and if she didn't like it, the ball was in her court to decide if she wanted to continue their relationship. Thank you all for the feedback on my original post. I never expected this kind of response and an overwhelming amount of comments and advice. I, 31F, booked a trip with my two friends, 31F and 26M, only for them to tell me after that they've been dating for months. Now I'm expected to third wheel this trip and don't know what to do. As the title says, my friends and I booked a trip a few weeks ago. They both had me book non-refundable fares for both flight and hotel to save some money, which sure, I had no problem with. For context, she had just broken up with her long-term boyfriend in February. I didn't think anything was going on, but a week after we booked the trip, she texts me and says her and my other friend have been seeing each other for a while, clearly before she even broke up with the boyfriend, and they kept it a secret to make sure our friend group dynamic didn't change since we hang out weekly, and they were confident that nothing would change it, all would be normal, and so they don't want me to be uncomfortable on the trip. I'm so incredibly mad that they would 1. Not tell me about this prior to booking the trip and giving me the option to bail or get my own room. 2. Think I would be okay just being a third wheel and sharing a room with them. 3. Having me book non-refundable on top of that, so basically locking me in. I'm upset they didn't consider this situation from my perspective and just deciding I'd be okay with it. I honestly don't know what to do to get out of this trip or the best way to go about it without sacrificing the friendship. I think he'd be understanding, but I'm not sure she would be. At this point, I'm willing to eat the cost, $700, because I just know I'll likely be miserable the whole time. Just don't know if I should bail at all? Or what I should say. Update. Just wanted to clarify a few things based on some responses I received. I know I don't need to justify anything to people on Reddit, but felt the need to do so. I'm not jealous of the relationship. I'm not unhappy for my friends. I am unhappy that they started this relationship while she was still with her ex-boyfriend, and lastly, I do not and never have had feelings for my male friend. I also know their relationship is not my business, and if there was no trip involved, then I wouldn't have expected them to tell me if they didn't want to, but that wasn't the situation. I appreciate everyone's responses. A lot of them were very helpful. I hung out with my 2 friends this weekend. I acted completely normal, but he couldn't even bother to make eye contact with me, would only speak to me when spoken to, and was acting extremely awkward. I don't know if he feels guilty now that I know or what, but it's his issue, not mine. They didn't want the friendship dynamic to change, but they're the ones changing it by not acting normal when I am. They were discussing the 2 of them planning things to do on the trip next time they hung out, just the 2 of them, and so today I took that as my opportunity to message them and ask if they even wanted me to come on this trip anymore based on them already planning things without me. I told them I feel uncomfortable going because the dynamic has changed even if they want to insist it hasn't, and that I really don't want to be a third wheel on the trip. I said I'm more than happy to sit this one out and for them to have a couple's trip. I also let them know that I wish they had considered my feelings and told me prior to the booking instead of deciding that I'd be okay with everything. She read my message and has yet to respond. It's been hours now, and he responded and is basically begging me to still come. I did say I wouldn't expect them to pay me back, but that I would try to get some of my money back, flight credit, see if I could change the room, so I didn't want money to influence whether they want me there or not. Hopefully she's just taking a bit of time to respond, and the 2 of them will ultimately be okay with and respect my decision. I don't want to cut them off as friends. I don't think they intentionally manipulated me or anything, but I'll likely just be limiting how available I am to them for the time being and spending more time with other friends. Update. My other friend did finally respond to me a couple of days ago, but there's just no point entertaining it. She got completely defensive and made herself out to be the victim in all of this. I didn't answer, and then she followed up with saying that because we agreed to this trip as being the 3 of us in mind, I should still split the cost of any transportation/Ubers and things we would have shared/split the cost of 3 ways. I told her absolutely not. I said I was willing to eat the hotel cost as it was prepaid, but anything you guys do there has nothing to do with me. She hasn't contacted me since. My male friend is also now giving me the silent treatment. Not sure if that's her doing or not. Either way, it's a good time to cut them both off.